The illegal elbow.
Elbow techniques. This is the elbow. An elbow from here. I'll throw the elbow.
Yeah, the illegal elbow.
All right, people, we're back, man. Illegal Elbow Radio. Another exciting episode for you guys, man. This is Brian from Illegal Elbow Radio, Illegal Elbow on Twitter.
And this is Dan from MMA Aftermath on Facebook and Twitter.
So recently we got Chuck Liddell taking part of a show called Sports Court, which is, we found it kind of funny, kind of ironic. Some of the questions that were posed.
Loaded questions.
Yeah, real loaded questions that were thrown at Chuck Liddell. We found it a little bit disturbing, and it kind of should piss your everyday fan off. But some people, some newer fans might not see what she's talking about. But
yeah, because what I've seen on mainstream media, it went right over a lot of people's heads. Like, I don't know if they didn't really listen to the questions that she was asking Chuck, but instead of having him come on, saying, "Hey, Chuck, what was it like fighting in the ring? What was it like being champion?" No. Oh, she went right into it, and you're going to see it. You're going to hear about it right here, and it fucking right off the bat, it's disgusting.
I think it's a combination of her unprofessionalism and her, they're trying to basically, throw Chuck under the bus and throw all the fucked up questions at him. You know what I mean?
And not only that, it's a sports court who had, I don't know how many MMA fighters they have on here, but what I've seen on their YouTube channel, it's a lot of other sports, and some of these fucking other sports, fucking like a sports court or something like that, to have an MMA fighter on, which probably they don't give two shits about MMA, they're almost going to try to besmirch or belittle or fucking, did what they did on this, dude, and fuck.
Yeah. I mean, and exactly. I mean, and she just basically, right in this very beginning here, she pretty much throws herself under the fucking bus, really, in my opinion, and shows about really how much she really knows what she's talking about. Let's go ahead and roll it here real quick.
I'm Tamara Holder, and this is Sports Court. Today with me is a very special guest in studio. Please welcome Chuck Liddell, the Iceman. Chuck, a former UFC Hall of Famer.
Okay, right there, I'm sorry. If people didn't catch that, okay, you're a dingbat idiot because he's a former champion and a Hall of Famer, not he's a former Hall of Famer. That means he's been stripped of his Hall of Fame status.
Hall of Fame status.
Yeah, so he's sitting there thinking, this bitch thinks I got stripped of my Hall of Famer status, so he's already probably thinking this is going to suck. This is going to suck all kinds of ass. And she's just, she's oblivious because she's so dumb to begin with.
Yeah. How about this? Chuck, 2 o'clock in the morning. Bring, bring. Yeah, this is Chuck Liddell. Chuck, I know you just got inducted last year, but Chuck, we're going to have to strip you of your Hall of Fame status. We just deemed it you weren't worthy anymore, Yeah,
John Jones
really? Come on.
Spot as the Hall of Famer for, what? I mean, come on, man. Really? This chick isn't even qualified to ask these questions or even conduct this interview. So let's carry on a little further and see some more discrepancies and just this chick.
Polarities.
Yeah. This chick with whatever. Just
hot mess.
It's a hot, stinking mess. She's already face planted, and she's getting up. She's covered with blood.
She is ready to take another backflip right back in the toilet too. So
she's trying to compose herself, but let's see her get it together. I doubt it, but
I have to ask you some questions about UFC and all that's going on. I mean, you're the guy that can talk about all things steroids in the UFC.
Okay, bro. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah. He's the guy. He is the all-knowing, and Chuck Liddell, former champion, should know all things about steroids. Right. He should be the guru, the fucking guy, the Wikipedia page of knowing about steroids. Give me a fucking break, bitch.
Yeah. Has he ever been caught on steroids? No. What does she know, number one? Number two, I don't get it.
How disrespectful can you be?
Yeah.
Accusation.
Yeah, just kick the guy in the balls, number one. I mean, the guy's an ex-champion, number one, in the sport that she's talking about.
Not a fucking former Hall of Famer, a Hall of Famer.
Exactly. And it's like, okay, you've already face planted once, and you got egg all over your face. Whatever, man. I mean, she's already got tomatoes thrown at her and everything else. She's obviously proved to be an idiot in this whole interview. She's a talking head. There's no knowledge about what she's even talking about thus far. Let's see her.
Okay, let's see if this dumpster fire of an interview, what other fucking quality things she has to say, bro.
Oh, she's going to drown herself even more, I guarantee that, but we'll go from here. And listen to Chuck's rebuttal. It's like, where does Chuck go from here?
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, lady. So, anyway, man, give it a listen.
I don't know if I'm the guy.
Sport, right?
It's the sport. Guys, they test for it. They catch guys. They get busted for it. They get suspended for a year. I mean, that's a lot of time to go without making your money. And I think that makes a good point to guys, and if they're not to do it. But I mean, obviously,
but they're doing it.
Well, guys always are. They're always going to. They're always even. They play that game in every sport there is, chasing down. From the Olympics, they're still chasing guys, trying to keep people trying to get an edge, and they're trying, and we chase them, trying to catch them and make sure that they stay clean.
Right,
that's the best you can do, isn't it?
It's not the best though. I mean, think about it. With Anderson Silva and Nick Diaz, they tested them before the fight, then they had the fight, and then the results came out after the fight. Isn't there a way where you can be tested before the fight and get the results before the fight?
I'm sure they can. I thought those tests those are post-fight tests, to my knowledge.
I believe that with the Silva fight, they were taken before, and that was the issue.
They usually don't.
Well, let me stop it right here. When it comes to news, I mean, she's going by what everybody else knows, and what nobody knows when those test results were given, or when they weren't given. I mean, really, let's think about it.
That has to do a lot about with people all in the uproar, being in an uproar about it.
Exactly. So she's asking questions that he can not possibly answer. And those questions are posed, like I said, she's a talking head.
Those front questions are loaded.
Yeah, they're loaded, and she's no more than a talking head. She has no idea of what she's asking him. Those are just on a bill, they're on a whatever.
She's just a chimpanzee fucking eating the bananas they give her.
Cue card. She's reading a damn cue card and moving on. Whatever, man. But I mean, it's.
And he's trying to explain himself too, and as you can see, she's trying to talk over him too.
Right,
so.
Right. So she's really taking him to task. Oh yeah, she's professional for sure.
She's trying to get him all flustered on live TV, which is fucking, not only the disrespect and the loaded questions, she's fucking trying to get him to stammer.
Yeah, which is annoying. Because it's like, this lady has no idea, just like the rest of us have no idea. What I heard, and I'm going to make this real quick so we can get back to the task at hand here, but what I heard somebody talking about, and I can't recall what interview it was. I think it was with Helwani talking to somebody. They said, you can ask for results on tests, but they don't just go out and disclose them. So the way media news individuals, whatever companies, get their news, when it comes to something like that, is they go and ask. Because if they're not just going to run out and tell you unless you ask. And that's what I heard. And we're credible people that we're talked to get that information. So I calling it fact, I'm not calling it fact, but I'm just going by hearsay. We can only go by hearsay. So, I mean, here's I wouldn't even call it hearsay. I would say it's pretty credible stuff. But, I can't say it's fact. But to dig her grave a little further, let's let her go on and ask a bunch of stuff that she knows nothing about. But we can get
that. They don't take them before unless you've had an issue before, a previous issue.
Okay.
They don't take them before, to my knowledge. You test them right after the fight.
And why would you test after the fight and not before?
I don't know. I don't know why they don't test.
That's actually a really good question, man. I got to go ahead and, Chuck pointed out, if you haven't had a prior problem, which that's a good way of mediating, okay, this guy's never had a problem, so he's kind of innocent until proven guilty. Why should we continue testing this guy, spend the money, all this stuff like that, which obviously is probably leading to what they're gonna eventually do, which is gonna get into what we're talking about later on. But he's saying that, if they haven't had a problem, then they don't test, and they test afterwards. It's like, well, then that's kind of, they get all the way through the fight and nobody knows nothing. But in the case of a John Jones, that wasn't the case.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, so why? Somebody did do a pre-fight test, and he did test positive. So this is already not. It's. I mean, I'm not saying Liddell's wrong, because Liddell's probably going by what he knows from years ago.
Yeah, what he knows.
A couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But I would think he's abreast of some of the changes, but maybe he's not. Who knows? Maybe he's out talking to people all the time. We know, from what we know, Chuck Liddell has been, since he's retired from the game and not a UFC, quote unquote fighter anymore. He's been in a position, some kind of relations position with UFC. He had an acceptance speech. It was all there. It was all, he talked about it. He said he had a hard time walking away from fighting or whatever. So there's been no talk of him not being in that position anymore. So as far as I'm taking the assumption that he's still right now in this interview, basically going there explaining what he knows from a UFC standpoint. But if UFC has not caught him up and not brought him up to snuff on what's gone on the last couple of years, which I'm not saying they haven't, but
well, that goes with what you're saying. He's out of the sport. He's doing all this side stuff. He might watch some fighting. He probably watch some fighting on the side here and there, of course. But for him to delve deep into what's going, the current fucking rules, you can't expect Chuck Liddell. You're bringing a guy on here, a retired guy who's not in the sport right now, and just trying to make him fucking trip over himself. Plus also calling him, he knows about all things fucking steroids. No, he doesn't. That's just fucking ignorant.
Right.
Really.
And it's a horrible way to start an interview on her part. Chuck Liddell, you being the guy that knows all, knowing all about, and it's like, okay, geez, you're going to start it off that way? That's why he's stammering and tripping all over the place, because he's got
right off the bat,
she's got him pegged to where he's supposed to know about it all. It's like, well, wait a minute, lady. I would have addressed that shit right away, but
he should have fucking shut down the fucking interview, But
well,
hey,
true, but he's also representing UFC. That's what I'm thinking. He's representing UFC, so he wants to tread lightly. That's the way I'm looking at it. He wants to tread lightly and be, whatever you call it, be respectful about the whole thing or whatever. And they just have a really improper, uneducated woman, or uneducated individual. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to. I'm bagging on her. If it was a dude, I'd be doing the same thing. It's not a male thing. But she's obviously uneducated with what she's doing, and she's a bit of a moron for conducting herself this way. I want to make people understand that it's not a man-woman thing. She's conducting this all about the wrong way. She's probably trying to be cutting edge because it's sports court, whatever. And I'm assuming
exactly. That's what I was going to say. It's sports court, and they want to put people on the stand, probably, or something like that.
This is already
cutting edge or something like that.
This has no much more credibility than the fucking divorce court. I mean, it's probably about as real as fucking reality TV. I mean, it's probably.
No, yeah, you're right, and it's like, okay, you're going to give.
Who cares? I mean,
purposefully fucking loaded questions that are going to make somebody like this uncomfortable and put them in a bad light and a bad position on live TV or on recorded TV. That's pretty fucking low, dude. You know, I'd have to go back and look some of these other fucking sports figures that they're interviewing, and if they don't fucking do that to these other people, and they're just, oh yeah, how you doing in tennis? We've heard that. Then you know that they're going after not only Chuck Liddell but the MMA sport in itself. So, you know, and making it look bad, really.
No, and that could be the case. I mean, you know, if we get back to it too, you know, with John Jones, and then you have Anderson Silva, and then Nick Diaz, you can't really chalk up any credibility to what she's saying with the Nick Diaz thing. Everybody knew about it. The guy has a friggin' card, okay, that says it's okay for him to do it legally, but it's not okay for him to do it when it comes to fight time. It's just the truth. You know, yeah, he's got a card for it, but it's still an illegal drug when it comes to
the laws of the organization you're fighting in.
Right. You know what I mean? The Nevada State Athletic Commission is not going to, or California or whoever, is not going to okay your use of pot. Okay, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. You can have your card all day long, and you could do it outside of training. You could do it outside of competing. But, you know, there you go. But so there's a whole other question right there. You know, we're talking about John Jones doing cocaine outside of competition. Was it really outside of competition? We don't know. But, you know, who knows? You know, I mean, but let's delve in a little bit more of this, man, and we can go from there.
All right.
Yeah, I don't really know about that.
So the UFC is meeting in Nevada on Wednesday. Dana White, president of UFC, he's meeting to discuss these issues, steroids. What do you think changes should be made? Because if they're not testing before a fight, I mean, how is that fair to fight a fight where you don't know if the person's on steroids or not? Should he make some changes?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, I've never worried about it when I was fighting. I mean, if you're doing, I was in a weight class. I cut down to my weight class. If you're doing steroids to come up to me and get strong, and I've never been muscled by anybody in my weight.
Yeah, but that's because you're the Iceman and you're just a badass guy.
Well, but you know, that's what they're doing. I think there's enough. Well, obviously there's not enough to stop guys, but there's how much can you do? How much can you go in and force guys to test and do stuff? If they want to expand the testing, you know, it's a big thing.
So what about
then it becomes prohibitive for, you know, like smaller fights. So you're going to test all those guys too before pre and post. I mean, maybe they make something changes that way, but I don't know.
Well, Ronda Rousey said that steroids is going to destroy the UFC eventually. Do you think that is true? Because you were really part of seeing it grow into such a huge success.
What? It's like, I don't think that it's any different than any other sport. You got to keep trying to keep guys clean and keep them honest and have fair competitions as best you can, and it'll keep going, and you can keep playing that cat and mouse game with athletes as long as it goes.
Well, Anderson Silva, I've done some research on this, and you said that you like him, that you thought he was going to win this fight. You would like to have fought him back in the day if you were still fighting, right? These are things that you've said, but is that the Anderson Silva before knowing that he tested positive for steroids? How does it make you feel?
Well, you know, I don't know. I mean, I don't think he's never had a problem before, and coming off that injury, I don't know if that was something he was trying to, you know, heal from that. I don't know what his thing is. It's a you know, sad blemish on his record to have that happen at any point. So,
do you think he can come back from it?
You know, people will still watch him fight. If he comes back and wants to fight, I mean, after whatever suspension is given to him, I mean, I'm sure if he still wants to fight, he'll still show up. People will come out to watch him fight still.
Awesome.
You know, I really don't think this is as bad as everybody points it out to be honest with you, man.
It got better. You know, but
she did really start out. I think it's more, you know, I kind of cut you off there. I didn't mean to, but she kind of started off very unprofessional. I think that's more what it is. She's just not very, you know, she's probably not very real well knowledged on the sport altogether, so she doesn't know where to come out and where to throw on a big happy face or throw on throw in some big emotions like she knows what she's talking about, because she doesn't know what she's talking about. I mean, I'm going by what I'm seeing. She looks to me like she doesn't know what she's talking about. So, I'm throwing that in there and guessing along with, guesstimating, I should say, that, she doesn't have a real good knowledge of the sport. This is not what she's normally in there asking questions about. She's probably got a whole line of notes. You know what I mean? And her unprofessionalism just ran right into her original questioning, to where she was supposed to say former champion, Hall of Famer, or something like that, and she stumbled and face planted right onto her own, in her own footprint.
Words.
I don't know.
You're probably right, dude. It's like, if you're gonna come in like that and one say former Hall of Famer, and then follow it up with, you should know everything about fucking steroids, all things steroids,
Right.
and then asking him, she did ask him what the fuck he thought fucking
Right.
Anderson Silva was thinking. You don't know what the fuck Anderson Silva's thinking, really.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. It is a loaded question. It's like, well, how is anybody supposed to know? That's like saying, well, Chuck Liddell, what was Chuck Manson thinking? Way back in the day, what was Chuck Manson thinking?
Yeah.
He had all those 4 girls, that he was, drilling whenever he wanted, and he had them all believing his, funk and junk and everything else, and whatever was going on in his head. What was he thinking, Chuck Liddell? I mean, how could you ask him a more silly-ass question? Just because I'm in the same sport as the guy doesn't mean I know exactly what he's thinking. It's totally irrelevant. I don't know, man. It just shows that she was given a list of questions, like a lot of news media going on in this friggin' world, much less this country. Sorry, man, you're given a big pile of shit to read, and that's what they're reading. So, and that's how they go with it. And it's just a talking head kind of crap. Shit.
Yeah, to me, it started out, with the whole thing. If they're going to have Chuck Liddell on, ask a few questions. But I would have started them out with, before we get into the steroid questions, what was it like being in the UFC? This and that, and doing his little small rundown of the history of Chuck Liddell for people that didn't know about Chuck Liddell.
Right, do a presentation. Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of that, you just go right in, you start hammering fucking questions at this guy, trying to get him off guard. I think the interview would have been a lot more smoother on Chuck's end. It could have gave you a lot more decisive answers if you would have done, like you said, the presentation. Instead, you're like I said, you disrespected him off the first fucking questions, and then you're asking him how you think somebody feels coming back from doing that. That he doesn't know those things. He doesn't know. One, he doesn't know coming back after being busted for steroids, and 2, he doesn't know what the fuck Anderson Silva is thinking.
Right.
So
let me throw this at you. UFC, yet again, caught with their fucking pants down. I'm telling you, man, this right here is another shot of them caught with their pants down, because UFC knew about him doing this. Make no mistake about it. UFC knew he was going to be front and center doing this. They didn't, and my guess is they didn't brief him. They didn't talk to him about it. They didn't find out what kind of questions he was asked. They didn't find out her professionalism.
Didn't go over shit with the PR guy.
They didn't find out how knowledge she was on what she was going to be asking or anything. Yeah. They just said, yeah, go and do it. Yeah, let's clear some things up.
This bitch is known to be a complete idiot. You should have no problem.
And they basically went in there, and they UFC pretty much screwed Chuck on this deal, in my opinion, because this is basically UFC on fucking Judge Judy. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. You have no business UFC has no business being on a show like this. Really? This shows that you're going to play with a false ass show? To me, this is a bullshit show. It's not even a real show. What is this? This is like, I don't know. I'm not even sure about the credibility of this show, really. I mean, why UFC's playing with these guys? I mean, I don't even get it.
Like I was saying, man, it's, part of this mainstream media kind of trying to be mainstream media about this. Coming out, you got tennis players on there, you got basketball players, ex-basketball players, ex-fucking golfers, all this shit. Those are your main, our famous, popular sports, that we like. You bring a fucking MMA guy in there because the only time you're not bringing an MMA guy in there to talk about, his fucking career. You only bring an MMA guy in there when some shit like this happens on your show. I could probably dig through this shit. There's no other MMA fucking personalities on there. You only brought an MMA guy on there, and you only ask him fucking questions to deal with a scandalous situation to put MMA as a whole in a bad light.
It certainly doesn't look like a good idea altogether when it comes to UFC. I mean, UFC could have made this choice and said, "No, we're not going to do that." Nick come out and say, "Oh, UFC, said that they're not going to come over here." And UFC could have easily said, "Yeah," because we know what kind of questions they pose. They could have easily explained themselves why they weren't going on this show, and easily done somebody with a more credible.
I would have liked to see him. I would have liked to see them interview fucking Nick Diaz. I'm not a big Nick Diaz fan, but I would have loved to see him interview Nick Diaz on this instead of him. Would have been a fucking.
That would have made a shit ton more sense. Because Nick Diaz, I mean, we all know Nick Diaz interviews. I mean, I'm not bagging on the guy, but he's not going to hold anything back.
Exactly. That's why I said Nick Diaz. He would have fucking shut this shit down quickly.
He would have said, "What are you trying to, ask me a backhanded question? What are you doing here?" I mean, yeah, he would have taken her to task, and she'd have been the first one to walk off before he would.
Yeah. Well, they probably wouldn't even have aired it.
Yeah, I'm sure we could see, whatever rough cuts, 10 years from now. But I think it was a good failure. No, I'm just saying, I think it was a good failure on both parts, man. UFC taking part in this kind of crap. This is a fart stuck in John's pants, man. Who cares about it? Nobody cares about it. He's the only one dealing with it, unless it's, asparagus from yesterday. I mean, there's this interview right here means nothing to me. This answered no questions whatsoever.
No.
It did nothing.
No. Yep, but try to make a fucking MMA fighter look fucking bad,
I don't even think she even pulled that off, really.
No.
I mean, by the time she got to the end of what she was saying or what she was doing, everything was fine, really, because he explained himself diligently. I think he did just fine.
The best way he could, yep.
Yeah, and I mean, she obviously, we know about her professionalism. She face planted right in the very beginning, so she already leveled whatever leverage she had. She lost it in the first 30 seconds of the interview. She's like, "Oh my gosh, I just destroyed this thing. Whatever credibility I had, I just lost it now because I look like a moron now."
Now let me try to fucking interrupt him while he's talking,
Right. It'd make me look like face plant. Sorry, lady. Fail. Whatever her name was. I don't remember her name. But cap it off for us, brother.
Steadfast.
And a God beer.